I think we find that the AGM is actually a really good opportunity to kind of sit and reflect, because we sit there and kind of go, okay, well, we need to present on the last sort of financial year. So it is, sort of 14, 15 months where you're looking back, and then you kind of sit there and you write the list and you're like, oh, okay, we've done quite a lot here.
Obviously, the negative has got to be the COVID hole, which you've now sort of really got a bit more of a realistic figure of £30 million. What about the positives as well? What would you say is the main positive as far as you're concerned from the last 12 months?
Well, I think it was kind of bouncing straight back to the Premier League has to be the obvious positive. The way that we won the Championship, and did that, in a really difficult year. That kind of no supporters. Like, I think sort of Stuart spoke tonight about how difficult it is kind of coming empty stadiums week in, week out. So I think we're really proud at the kind of the resilience that everybody showed to kind of get us back at the first attempt.
I'm glad you mentioned him, because that's the big news from this evening, the fact that Stuart's going to be staying on a rolling contract. As far as the club is concerned, that stability is key.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think there's still a long way on that journey. COVID has kind of probably set us back, because we sort of try not to think about it, but we do often think, what if we'd had that 30 million? Where could we be now? Some of the projects that we'd want to do might have been done. So I think for Stuart, it's there's still some growth here for him. There's still unfinished business. There's things that he wants to do. And it's great that we've got that stability going forward. And
stability is the right word, especially in a period where Norwich City have just changed their head coach. So, now more than ever, I think fans will be happy that stability will be there.
Yeah, I think like he spoke about tonight, I think it would have been very difficult to kind of make that decision if he'd not made his decision. I think to go to the board and make a recommendation without having sort of discussed where he was at would have been difficult. So I think it was really important to get that sorted first.
We know that there's not going to be much money in the transfer budget, because he's come on and said that as well. As far as other questions that came from the floor, plans for safe standing, extending the capacity of the ground, these are things that you gave answers to. So these are both things that are in your mind, aren't they, as you look to the future and how you improve over the next 12 months and beyond?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, safe standing has always been something that the club has been in support of. We've got to do kind of extensive consultation with the number of season ticket holders that we have. We've got to make sure that where we put that safe standing, when the time comes, it's the right place, and that there's the demand for it. We've really got to understand, who would want to be in that area, who would want to move out of that area, how we facilitate that. We have to build that obviously into any kind of season ticket renewal process. So it's a bit of a journey that we've got to go on, but it's one that we will be starting in the coming months.
All these things cost money. I think it's something that gets asked most years, but it will always go on to be asked. Investment in the club, where is it coming from? I guess the headline was, people aren't beating down the door to throw money at Norwich City, and if they are, the vetting process has to be as stringent now as ever.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you're looking for investment, you've got to really be sure about effectively kind of who you're getting into bed with, and we need to make sure that if that is a route that we go down, then it's the right person or people that have the club's best interests at heart.
25 years for Dina and Michael there. That's something to be applauded, isn't it?
Absolutely, and I think, like we spoke about tonight, it's having supporters on the board. They're massively passionate about this football club, and they support us every day. They give us their trust. They give us their support in everything that we do. So we're really grateful to have them as owners.
As far as the football's concerned, it's over to Dean Smith and the boys to do their bit and try and keep Norwich City in the Premier League. We know that's where the money is. As far as off the field is concerned, what do you see as the most important thing going forward over the next 12 months for Norwich City to be?
I think really it's the same objective. I mean, the objective of everybody that comes into work every day for the next few months is to keep Norwich City in the Premier League, and that's what we all need to focus on and we all need to pull together to do.
Just a few for me, Zoe, just to pick up on the theme of stability that Phil mentioned there. I think from maybe the outside, and some supporters felt this summer with quite a few departures maybe wasn't as stable as perhaps previous summers. Do the club now feel that are at a stage sort of a few months into the season which is a bit more stable sort of off the pitch?
Sorry, in terms of
terms of Ben leaving, there was obviously a few people on the football side that left as well. Is that all now in a more stable position, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think obviously kind of Ben leaving in the summer was something maybe new to others, but something that we were planning and prepared for, and we'd had those conversations with Ben. The same with Kieran. So we'd even discussed sort of Kieran's succession plan with Kieran. So it didn't actually create a huge amount of instability for us because we were kind of prepared for it, and we had a plan of how we were going to move forward.
I suppose on Stuart's contract as well, the kind of rolling contract, is that, I suppose in terms of the club's perspective, a more stable approach than maybe the set 3 years that he had? Is that something that he wanted? Can you just sort of tell us a little bit more about the structure behind that?
Yeah, I mean, it was the sort of type of contract he came in on initially. So it's the kind of contract obviously most sort of employment contracts or employees would have. I think when the 3-year term was done, it was to kind of make a commitment that was the same commitment as Daniel. But yeah, we didn't really feel the need to kind of open a negotiation on length of term. We felt that actually reverting back to 12 months kind of rolling contract kind of delivered everybody what they wanted.
And just to pick up on a few more of the questions that were asked tonight, you obviously asked about the redevelopment of the stadium, which seems to come up every year at an AGM. It was interesting that you said you've spoken to an external company about the possibility of doing that further down the line. Can you sort of tell us a bit more about those plans and what stage we're at? Because I think supporters will be particularly keen to know.
Yeah, I think you know, we've acknowledged, and the board have acknowledged, that we do need to do something. When we do that will entirely depend on the club's circumstances. But what I suppose where we've been in other projects is that we'd always like to be in the position that when we can do it, we're prepared to do it. So I think for us at the moment, it's about kind of taking those first steps. It's really understanding what the feasibility is, what that stand would look like, what the rest of the Carrow Road kind of site would look like. And then we can kind of build that sort of master plan and you know, and then eventually hopefully move forward and implement some of that work. But I think it's a case of, we're not kind of saying like there's going to be a spade in the ground, but we absolutely have to start that development work.
In terms of infrastructure, I mean, you mentioned tonight over £4 million, even during a pandemic, has been committed to that. For this football club and the way it operates, and obviously the way it wants to progress academy players, both at Colney and Carrow Road, how important is that investment to infrastructure?
Yeah, I think it's really important. I think, you know, we want supporters to have the best experience. We want the players to have the best experience. And to do that, you have to continue to invest and continue to develop your facilities.
What has it been like with the fans coming back in kind of the early weeks of the season? The sort of feedback you've gotten it's obviously been positive to see them back. Have they sort of given you the same message, and have you seen kind of the uptake that maybe you're expecting in terms of people actually coming to the stadium despite the pandemic? And whatnot? Yeah,
I mean, I think it was always little bit of a cagey moment, kind of going into the first game of the season. You kind of wonder, will people come? And that's not just here, but that was, you know, across the whole country, you know, kind of how would people feel? But I think it almost feels like, you know, kind of business as usual now, and it doesn't really sort of seem to have a second thought. And, you know, we obviously gave some supporters the opportunity to kind of defer on their season ticket if they wanted to. I think we had a few that did that, but not that many. And yeah, it's been great. You know, last season was great, you know, for so many reasons, but, you know, it was empty. You know, you watching games in empty stadia, and there's like 5 or 6 of you watching, and it doesn't mean anything, and it's so hard to kind of get that emotional connection to what's happening without the supporters in the stadium.
Absolutely. There's obviously been some external criticism of Norwich City this season around the top 26 tag, which obviously was an AGM a couple of years ago, I think, and the fact that now it's a top 17 club has been made clear by Stuart in comments a couple of weeks ago. Can you tell us what that looks like off the pitch? I think we've heard what it looks like from the sporting side. Can you tell us what it looks like sort of being a top 17 club off the pitch?
Off the pitch, I think for us, again, it goes back to that the development of our infrastructure, looking at the stadium, how can we develop the stadium. It's also about kind of creating financial growth. You know, we very much focused on trying to get the club kind of financially stable over the last few years, and we think that kind of moving into that territory of trying to achieve kind of top 17, that should enable us to grow rather than just become stable, and that's when hopefully then we really can kind of continue to kick on.
And just to sort of follow up again on Phil's comments around investment, just final one from me. As someone put today, which is quite interesting, what is it about Norwich City maybe that investors maybe don't see value in or don't see a reason to invest in compared to other clubs relatively close to here, which has happened in sort of the last year or so, do you think?
I think there's it depends on kind of people's motive. I think you know, there aren't many people maybe that necessarily want to invest and not own or have a majority share. Like, you know, Anthony spoke about tonight, we do get inquiries, and I think we are actually quite attractive because of our model, so that there is interest there. But yeah, it's got to be credible and it's got to be the right thing, because I think, like you say, you do see a lot of clubs that do have some investment, but that doesn't always become a positive thing, and I think we just really want to make sure that if we do anything like that, then it's the right thing.
It does feel like everything in football comes back to money. This club obviously keen to ensure it kind of makes the most of what it's got. I mean, again, just to end with it, are you proud of the work this club has done in the last 12 months, given the circumstances that nobody really expected?
Yeah, absolutely, because I think, you know, there is a real opportunity to kind of send a message out of right, you know, we're in a pandemic, we don't know what's happening, let's kind of draw a line, we're not going to do anything, we're not going to build a soccer bot, you know, we're not going to do anything at the stadium, we're not going to kind of invest in the playing squad, but you know, you can either kind of sort of sit and dwell on it, and kind of go, oh, you know, what could have been, or you kind of try and find a way through and try and continue to grow, and that's, you know, been really important to us for the 4.5 years that we've been here, is that we just push and grow, and it just wouldn't be right to kind of just sit still.
Lovely stuff, thanks, Si.
Just a couple from me. Don't think much got made of the next phase of Colney redevelopments and the swimming pools and things. Has much been added to in terms of when that could happen, or what would make that happen?
Money.
Yeah. But it's not
yeah.
directly tied on staying up this year.
No, not. No, it comes down to when we feel that we can comfortably finance it. So as soon, but like sort of say with the stand, we always want to be prepared. So sometimes you could be, you know, kind of one big player sale away from doing it. So, you know, something happens in January or something happens in the summer, you want to be able to go, right, okay, actually we can, you know, carve off some money here, we can invest that in the swimming pool, and we're ready to go, rather than waiting then another year to kind of go through planning and things. So it's always really important to kind of get the projects lined up, and then as soon as we feel we can comfortably finance it, we'll go ahead.
Okay, that's good to know. It did come up about the spaces on the board. Do you envisage a time coming up where there may be new faces added to the board?
Quite possibly. I mean, I think that's a difficult one for me to kind of comment on, because it's not my place to kind of nominate or put people forward for the board. But I think it's something that Delia and Michael are very kind of conscious of making sure that they've got good expertise around the table, and it's definitely like they said tonight, not a closed shop.
Cool. And lastly, the crest was obviously unveiled a few days ago. What did you make of the reaction to it, I suppose? And what do you like it?
Do I like it?
Yeah.
I actually went into the day of the launch kind of trying not to think about how significant it really was, and not let that kind of overwhelm everybody. But yeah, I'm really proud of it. Actually, I'm really proud of the work. I think we've, with any element of change and change that involves design, there's always going to be a lot of subjective view of, oh, well, I think it should have been this, or I think it should have been that. But I think what I'm really proud of is how we kind of went through a process. We listened, we consulted, we got feedback, and actually we came out of it at the end with something that feels like everybody's pretty comfortable with. I mean, we didn't have a question about it tonight at the AGM.
Amazing.
2 days after it was launched. Now, I think if it was a contentious piece of work, we would have heard about it tonight.
Maybe none of them were on social media.
Maybe they hadn't noticed.
No internet. Wasn't that thing they showed at the end of that video? I don't know what that is.
So I kind of sort of very often I will go into whatever we're delivering or whatever piece of work thinking, right, okay, if it's positive, this is the road, if it's negative, this is the road, and actually going into that, I was like, I'm comfortable. We don't need a contingency plan here if this goes wrong, because I think we've just felt that we'd done the work and we'd taken the time to try and get it right.